Namaste. Welcome to our 90th Gita Talk. Let's get right down to the real business, which is how to realize the divine self. There are a lot of don'ts, but there's a lot of do's. Here are some do's. Forsaking egotism. Not easy. But you see, the more we meditate, the more aware we become of ourself, our true self. And the more we become aware of that, the more separated we get from the ego, and then we're able to observe the ego and see it for what it is and what it is definitely not. And therefore, it can't shape our consciousness, it can't shape our awareness. And that's the only way to do it. In the beginning, say in a nut, the shell and the kernel are like one. That is, the kernel is completely stuck to the shell. And if you would crack the shell open, you just rip apart the kernel. But when it ripens, the kernel separates from the shell. Oftentimes, if you shake it, you can hear it moving. But whether or not that happens, when you open it up, it just falls out. It's separated. It's effortless then. And this is what yoga is all about in its effect of our consciousness. So, forsaking egotism, force, bala. It means saying, I'm just going to strain and then I'm going to work at it. No. That too is the old, it's all up to me kind of thing. And believing that we have the ability to elevate ourselves. We don't. Abhyasa, practice, yoga sadhana, that's what does it. The innate nature is already there, but it's just waiting. It has to be accessed. And there's no other way to access than yoga sadhana. Pride, is arrogance and so on. Anger, flying off at everybody and making their life miserable or making them afraid. Like we say, oh, don't say anything to him, he'll just blow up. Some people are like that. And they're an explosion waiting to happen. And there's no way you can defuse them, but you can do another thing that begins with D. You can detach and then ultimately depart. Okay. Possessiveness. It's mine, it's mine. I've got to have it. I have to have it, and I don't care. I want it. You have what you have. I knew a man who was from one of the very great, wealthy, powerful families of Bengal. He lived in this unbelievable house. I mean, it was huge. I'm sure 2-3 dozen people could live there, and chances are in the past, in the so-called joint family, that many people did live there. It wasn't falling down in a state of disrepair, but you could tell no attention and no money was ever spent on it. And he lived there basically alone and lived very frugally. And yet, interestingly enough, when a hypocrite one time was talking to him about how he'd heard a sadhu, who, by the way, lived in luxury, was extolling simplicity of life and frugality of life. The man at that time, when the economy of India was much less than it is now, he had 100,000 rupees in a bank. And then he owned several ashrams. He was rich. And every day he had a different outfit. He was giving a series of talks on Srimad Bhagavatam. And it was a little cool. He had a different sweater even every day. And he was telling them that even your underwear should be skimpy. You see, a strip of traditionally a strip of cloth is worn. I don't want to bother to give the called a copine. I don't want to bother to give the mechanics, but he said even your coping should be narrow. It shouldn't even be wide. And this man, who is himself a hypocrite, was saying, "Oh, that was just wonderful," all the way he said. But my friend, the rich man, said, "I don't believe that. I have what I have and I'm enjoying it." And he was enjoying it, but he had enough sense to enjoy simplicity. So you see, there's great luxury in knowing how not to be owned, but to own instead. Freed from the notion of mine, it's mine, it's not yours. And after all, don't you say anything about that? No. And peaceful Shanta, calm, at rest, and content, not just outwardly, but inwardly. He is fit for union with Brahman. He's qualified for it. Still takes more to get there. And the interesting word is, I've kept it here from the text, yes. Kalpate means fit, but it also means adapted to. In other words, he is conformed to the way that is necessary for liberation in the spirit. He is adapted and conformed to it. He didn't adapt his life to him, he adapted his life to that higher purpose. Absorbed in Brahman, with self serene, he grieves not, nor desires. In other words, he doesn't say, "Oh, I don't have it." And he doesn't say, "I want it." The same to all beings. That is, he sees the divinity in all, but he also is intelligent in his relation to all beings. And Sri Ramakrishna said, you stay away from the tiger, even though you know it has the same Atma that you have. And you stay away from the thief and the murderer. And you stay only with those who are righteous people so that you can remain a righteous person. So he said, you bow down to the tiger god from a distance. There are some people, divinity is in them, but so is something else. So we stay away. With all of this, it says, then he has supreme devotion. There's ordinary devotion, but supreme devotion is what we need because we're going after union with the Supreme. By devotion to me, he comes to know how great I am in truth, in reality. Because the dedication means, well, if you're devoted to, say, a certain kind of food, you think about it a lot. If you're devoted to a certain person, you think about them a lot. If you're devoted to a certain goal, you think about how you're going to get it a lot. So you fix your mind on Brahman, by japa, day and night, not in remembrance of God, in God. Because Soham is God. God said in the beginning, Soham is me. By Soham Japa, you are there with God. Emily Dickinson said, instead of going to heaven at last, I'm going all along. That's the yogi. He's not going to die and become one with God and unite with God. He's united already. What is the situation is, it's a degree of consciousness of that union, but the union is there already. You are wed to God by Son. This is the fact. But that's real devotion. That's bhakti. Bhakti is whining and saying how much you love God and boo-hoo and you can't stand the separation and so on. Well, who created the separation but you? So shut up whining and get busy, remove it, and be one. By devotion to me, he comes to know, not feel, believe, oh, I say hymns, I sing your praises, oh God. No, he comes to know how great I really am. Then, having known me in truth, he forthwith enters into me. How? Because I've always been in you. In other words, first you have to act like the divine is an object. But you fix your mind on it, and you fix your mind on it, and you take the form of that divine in its sound form, in its mantric form, and unite your mind and your will consciously with it, and then you ultimately enter into it and become it. This is the reality of the situation. And it's not only just the highest ideal, it's the only realistic ideal. By devotion to me, he comes to know how great I am in truth. Then, having known me in truth, he forthwith enters into me. It's just good to hear those marvelous words again. Doing all actions, always taking refuge in me. In other words, no matter what he does, where he seems to be, and what he seems to be doing, he's always at the feet of God. He's always in the sheltering embrace of God. By my grace, he attains the eternal immutable state, which is his real state. But often, interestingly enough, we only experiencing it if we learn to somehow have a distance consciousness and awareness, and then think of it as that's there, I must go there, and then we attain. We don't really go anywhere, but we do in our consciousness. You see? There are people who in their consciousness, they're in the toilet, and others in their consciousness, they're in the heights of spiritual reality and insight. It's all there. Sri Ramakrishna said, Mon Shob, the mind is everything. By that he means the whole intellect, intelligence, and the focus of that. And it's immutable. It can't be changed. Once that's gotten there, that's how it is. Once you're born, your mother could say, oh, I wish I was pregnant. Well, she's not. The baby is out and the baby is gone. Mentally renouncing all actions in me. Now, that's very important because you see, you can say, oh, I don't want to touch that, but oh, you wish you could have that cigarette like you used to enjoy it. Or, oh, you wish you could have this pleasure that you used to have. So you haven't mentally renounced it at all. You haven't expunged it from your mind. You haven't expunged it from your heart. So mentally renouncing is not just a little bit of stuff. That's not easy. Renouncing all actions and being detached is an action too. Holding me as the highest goal. That means compared to God, because he's infinite, everything else is nothing in a certain sense. When it comes down to that, always, if it's make a choice of the highest or something not the highest has to get the vote. Otherwise, we wander in darkness of samsara with our samskara for lifetimes. People could be very, very religious. Again, I've known people that are so religious, You think they'll be there forever, they'll be true. And within maybe 10, 15 years after I first met them, bam, I mean, they were down in the swamp. They were degraded. They weren't just slacking off a little bit. In fact, you can't. Once you start to move, you slide in that direction. So it's essential to hang on, hang on, hang on, and look neither left nor right, but just right there. Tunnel vision is very helpful in spiritual life. Mentally renouncing all actions in me, holding me as the highest goal. I mean, this is really believing it, not saying it like, oh, we often say, well, I know it's what I should do, but oh, I don't want to. You know God is the high. How will you know God anyways, the highest goal if you don't touch him through meditation? At least get a glimpse. Resorting to Buddhi yoga, the yoga of intelligence, using your head. Not this, I'm just God's little child and I'm devoted. And I knew someone who would bang on the bongo drums and sing, Divine Mommy, my divine mommy. Well, guess what? He got a lot of mommies in his life that were divine. And he died nothing without any divine mommy. So don't be fooled by yourself. You are your worst enemy. You're the biggest liar that can come into your life. Beware. So you have to use your brains. You have to be intelligent. You have to analyze and discriminate. Yes, and you do. You have to read. You have to learn, because how are you going to apply if you haven't learned it? Oh, no, you don't read books. Oh, yes, you do read books, because they remind you over and over again. Because the human mind is so plastic and is so able to forget. I've I've known of people who just drifted away, and though I didn't see them again, people who met them said it's like they've forgotten they were even a yogi. It's like they can't even remember what it was like when they were a yogi. It's terrible, but it happens, and it happens mostly. It's our job to see we're not part of the mostly. So, Buddha yoga, constantly fix your mind on me. You don't think again and again of something you consider useless or with no benefit to you. So you train your mind to be intelligent, and go to the highest intelligence, which is God. Fixing your mind on me, you shall by my grace, because it's in you already. That pattern was given to you in your first manifestation. You shall by my grace surmount all obstacles. The yogi does not need to worry as long as he's doing the sadhana, japa tapa, japa meditation, japa meditation, japa meditation. And strict, yes, if need be, severe conforming of your life to the principles and the ways that facilitate that endeavor. But if by egotism you will not hear me, oh, I can manage. Oh, I don't think God means this to be that extreme. You shouldn't hurt anybody's feelings. Oh, I've heard that a lot. Oh, but but I don't think they could handle it if I really started acting like this. If I stopped that, you choose. You choose. But listen to these words. But if you will not hear me, then you shall perish. You choose. Well, we're right at 20 minutes. And with those adamant words, we can depart. And next time, Krishna has even more to say.